Hi, I'm Howard Peters, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am now currently retired, but in my prior life, I spent from my 20s until my current 70-year-old period, major weekend excursions of collecting wonderful finds. Very often some highly collectible mid-century arts and crafts and Art Deco period finds. In the process, what I'd like to be able to do is start to share a lot of my knowledge of, 40 plus years. My first video, I'd like to go through some education, and subsequent videos will talk about organization, structure, decorating, setting things up, and then how do I find these wonderful things. I could tell you I don't like going per se into high-end antique shops and pay mucho money for things. So for now, let's talk about education. And I'm going to cover two things today. One is samples, and then we'll go a little bit into one of my other areas that I really love, Native American pottery. So let's come over here and let me see if I can flip this. So what you're looking at right now are a couple of pieces of Native American pottery, and below the Native American pottery is a wonderful piece of furniture, and probably was a dining room table. And it was a miniature. And in the early days, 1800s, maybe even up to the early 1900s, you'd have a lot of salespeople going around with smaller versions of dining room tables and such. But let's get a little closer. I'm going to take off some of these pots so they don't... Okay. So this floor sample piece is just absolutely wonderful. I came upon this, and you can see here the graining is just absolutely wonderful. There is this wonderful crack across the piece. I'm not 100% sure the wood, but I know it's a hardwood. And then if you turn this over, this is important when you're looking at furniture, is to see the construction. You're going to see as you go and look at dressers and other pieces, you want to know whether it was handcrafted or machine crafted. This piece is probably a combination of machine and handcrafted, but you could see here this has not been played with. And what I loved about the piece is the patina and the form. And I did not pay a lot of money at all for this. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Native American pottery. I've lived in New Mexico now for probably 24 years now. And one of my draws to this state is the different pueblos that exist here. I also live in Arizona, and I get to see the Navajo, the Hopis in that region of town. And then, of course, what you're looking at right now are two pots. One is an antique, a super antique, and the other is more of a collectible. The one on the right is a Zia Pueblo piece, and you can kind of see here the intricacy of the patterns and designs. Just a wonderful piece. The piece on the left is an early piece, probably I'd say 1920s, 1930s, and you can see a huge difference between the two in the colors and the crafting of the pieces. So, so the major thing right now is to understand when you go to hunt for Native American pottery, what do you hunt for? What do you look for? Well, certainly with the pottery that I've just displayed, you can see when you look at the pottery, how old is the piece? What pueblo does it come from? So one of the things you need to look at are certainly books. I own loads and loads of art books, decorator books, and certainly antique and collectible books across different topics and subjects. I'm going to try to share a lot of that knowledge with you. So here's a number of my books that I have out here. Mean Breeze Pottery, Acoma and Laguna Pottery. I only grabbed a couple. The Legacy book is a very summarized book of several pueblos and what particular weavings and textiles they make in their forms and styles. So I'm going to safely say at this point that here's an example of a Kiva polychrome jar, and it's part of the Santa Domingo Pueblo, which is outside of Santa Fe. And it's a very summarized book. It just gives you one or two samples. The book that is really critical and important here in this presentation is The 14 Families in Pueblo Pottery by Rick Dillingham, who is no longer with us, but was also a studio potter who made certainly fantastic pottery. And his work is actually at ASU in Arizona, and his work is certainly well sought after. But the 14 Families in Pueblo Pottery are families that are known for their pottery, and certainly it has the lineage of the various members of who are making pottery. And it's important to have this book because many of the pieces are signed by those members, and it helps you to understand who is collectible, who is very famous, like Maria Martinez, the Nampeo family, certainly, the Hopis. Many of the Nampeo family members make some spectacular pieces. And yes, I have bought pieces out of Savers, actually, in Scottsdale, with signatures of Nampeo and many other members. So it's important to get this book or to find a book that's very similar so you can learn about the different potters across the tribes. So one of the things that we covered today, of course, were samplers. They didn't only make furniture samplers. I actually own a few pieces that are clocks, miniature clocks that were grandfather's, form, but certainly they were small miniatures so that when they wanted to sell the actual large grandfather clock, they didn't have to lug that around, and certainly were able to show the stylized form of the clocks in miniature. And then pottery, Native American pottery. Boy, I collect more than just Native American pottery. I collect fat lava, German pottery from the 50s and 60s and 70s, mid-century design, some pretty spectacular pieces. I also collect American pottery, and we'll go through a lot of the pottery during many different periods. I have a whole collection of European pottery outside of Germany as well. But I think the major thing here is I will probably also go into, like a lot of other channels do, with decorator items. Certainly, a lot of the young folks love IKEA. And I've seen a lot of other channels where they talk about IKEA pieces. I'm not going to go as much into things like what's hot and new right now. I really want to focus more on what should you be collecting that's going to be great and unique down the road, because a lot of these other channels, I mean, I'm not really into going into a store with brand new items and just have a million of the same. My channel is One of a Kind by Howard, and that's what I'm all about. It's finding those unique and highly spectacular items that shine and stand out, rather than going into a store and just buying, like, I don't know, one item that, I don't know, thousands of other people also own. That's not what I'm all about. And I'm hoping that others will join me in this crusade of hunting for unique and great things. Take care.